Hello, lovely people. Welcome to today's reading of Ruby on the Outside. Yesterday we left off on page 48. So, away we go. I was curled up in my mother's lap, but I was leaning over the table drawing while we were talking. At 10, I was probably too big to sit like that, with all my weight on her legs, but she was holding me, balancing me while I was working hard in that coloring book, trying to stay inside the lines perfectly, trying not to make a mistake. "The social worker wants me to talk to you, Ruby," my mother said. I think it was the second time she tried to say this. I was trying to ignore her. I was glad I couldn't see her face, only the picture in front of me. Someone before me had already drawn in this coloring book. I found the only page that was still clean, that I could make my own. I want to talk to you too," my mom went on, "about what happened that night, about why I am in here. I think you are old enough now to hear some things." I wasn't. I kept coloring. Purple within the lines, dark purple over the light purple. And somewhere in my brain, a memory was triggered. There were little shots of bright white lights darting around a bedroom in my mind far away, flashlights and voices and shouting. And so long ago, a woman in a blue uniform handed me a teddy bear. Then I don't remember anything else until I am living with Matu, who isn't Matu yet. She is my mother's older sister, and I'd never met her before. I have to take responsibility for my choices, Ruby. I wouldn't be a good mother. My mother paused, like she was stopping herself from saying something, and then with effort she continued. I wouldn't be a mother if I didn't do that, if I didn't take responsibility. I know Matu says that my mother didn't do anything wrong. It was all Nick. I heard her talking, sometimes crying. Nick was a drug addict. My mother didn't even take drugs. Everyone gets tested when they get arrested, and my mother didn't test positive for anything. Not even alcohol, and that's legal. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's what Matu says. Ruby, are you okay? My mother asked me. I didn't want to hear whatever it was she was going to say, but I had to say something to act like I was interested and then get her to change the subject. What happened to him? I picked out a new color, orange, and I started going over the parts I had already colored purple, and the whole thing was looking like brown mush. To who? Nick. There were other kids around, some talking quietly, some playing games, some fighting with their mom, arguing about why they were getting in trouble in school or at home, or being disrespectful and angry. I never understood how you could use the tiny amount of time you have with your mom like that. He went to prison, Ruby. You never have to worry about him again. For longer than you? I wanted to believe there was something fair about this whole thing, that something that seemed so horribly unfair to me. But when I asked that question, I saw Matu rolling her eyes around in her head like she was having a seizure. What? I asked. That doesn't matter, Ruby, my mother told me, which meant she wasn't going to answer me. What matters is how I move forward from here and if you can forgive me. Forgive you? My orange crayon snapped right in half in my hand. For what? I watched as Matu started shaking her head in some silent sister communication. Let it be, Janice, she said finally, and my mother got quiet. She kissed the top of my head, picked up a yellow crayon, and started working on the page with me. She was letting it go. Now I could breathe. I knew what happened to Nick. I already knew what happened to Nick, though, even before I asked. I had heard Matu on the phone so many times, even when I tried not to. Nick had some information about even bigger, more dangerous drug dealers, the ones he brought drugs from, and he traded that information for a lesser sentence. He was offered what they call a plea bargain. He ratted out his drug supplier, and in exchange, he didn't have to spend as many years behind bars as my mother, who had done nothing. She didn't have anything to give them in exchange for a lighter sentence. They didn't even offer her a plea bargain. Nobody needed anything from my mom, but I did.